Our next guest is new to the show, Lucas Johnson, and he has a new book out. It's Lucas L. Johnson, but he has a new book out, and it's called Remembering Roots. And it's about the show Roots. And I wanted to show him my copy that I got because the subhead is How an American Classic Transformed the World. And I got my own copy. I haven't gotten a chance to get into it other than reading I think I read the first, because there were two like forwards, and I read the first one. But welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And I always tell people, because we've discussed roots on this show,
Mm.
to varying, because of in different circumstances, it'll come up in conversation. And my co-host is joining us now, so she was able to join us a little later than we
Yeah.
wanted her to, but we love her when she comes on. She has a full-time job, so sometimes she has to do that. You have to have your priorities in order.
Yes, ma'am. I totally understand.
And I
Yeah.
don't know what I did with myself. I think I moved my picture when I admitted you, Rhonda. I moved myself over to the side. I
Oh
didn't
yeah,
even know.
it
I
moves
didn't even.
around like
I
that.
didn't even know that was possible. So anyway, the
Mm.
show is live, Lucas. So anyway, I
Hi
I
Lucas.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm wonderful.
Good.
yeah, I mentioned on the show. I've mentioned it a number of times. Roots, in my opinion, is the definitive work on showing our history, um, from slavery, but before slavery, and through those years, 100 or so years, I think it
Mm.
covers.
Mm.
After that, there hasn't been anything else produced that, for one thing, a lot of people, if you're young, or I say if you're under 50, or maybe you don't have really a knowledge of roots, but
Mm.
it was a major event at the time it was shown. So tell us, Lucas, what made you write this book?
Well, I knew the 50th anniversary was coming up, and I just felt like I had to do something. And actually, I when I was with the Associated Press, I did a story on Alex Haley's childhood friend, and Alex Haley had actually planned to write a book about him, but he died before getting started. And Fred Montgomery was the man's name, and he was the curator of the Alex Haley Museum, but he was also the mayor of Henning, Tennessee, the first black mayor of Henning, Tennessee.
Oh,
A
okay.
phenomenal man. And so I did a tour of the museum, did a story about him, and he told me that Alex Haley had planned to write this book and asked me if I would complete it. And I told him, let me think about it. And I got back to him and I ended up writing. And that book was called Finding the Good that came out a number of years ago. But that's how I first kind of found out more about Alex Haley. I'd heard about him, but it wasn't until I met Mr. Montgomery, who grew up with Alex Haley, that he gave me more details about him. And then I saw Roots, and it just, it always stayed with me. And then I saw it again, Roots, The Next Generation, as well
Mm.
as the remake that came out in 2016. But it was that original miniseries, of course, starring LeVar Burton and Ben Vereen as Chicken George, that made those characters that people just don't forget. And I again knew that the anniversary was coming up for both. And so I just had to do something. And so I thought the best way to pay tribute to the book would be to get commentary from various people from different walks of life, educators, scholars, and some of the original cast members of Roots that I was fortunate to get in contact with, like LeVar Burton and like Ben Vereen. And so it just kind of, came together from that.
Oh,
What
wow.
did you just very quick side question. What did you think of the remake?
Honestly, okay, and I interviewed Mark Walper, who was the son of David Walper. He was the one that actually remade it. I didn't think it was as good as the first one, to be quite honest. enjoyed seeing the different characters, like Forrest Whitaker playing Fiddler, but he wasn't Louis Gossett Jr., who played the original Fiddler.
Yeah,
You
well,
just,
I kind of feel like the first one had more of the heart, but I
mhm.
did enjoy that they wanted to be more historically accurate,
Yeah.
the second one. So I did enjoy that piece of it. But you're right. I grew up on the original route,
Uh-huh.
and that
Yeah.
one's always going to have my heart. But I still did have an affinity for the second one.
Yeah, and I was glad that when I interviewed Mark, he was saying it took him the longest to do the remake. People were asking him, like, when are you going to do a remake of Roots? And he just was like, how can you remake something that great? But then he felt like after his kids saw it and he talked to them about it, he realized that he should do something for a newer generation. And so to do
Yeah.
that, he got, newer characters. And I think they did try to take a different approach, a little bit from the original and to be more, I guess to try to relate to a younger generation. But again, I still like the first one and the next
Oh,
generation. But I
oh,
commend them
absolutely.
for doing what they did.
I agree. And I live in Maryland.
Okay.
So one of my favorite things to do is to go to Annapolis and see the Alex Haley Kunta Kinte Memorial. It's
Okay.
absolutely beautiful. The statue, it's kind of
Yeah.
almost, and I'm sure you've probably been there, but it's that walk. And there are
Mhm.
little plaques with different sayings or different quotes from the movie, or actually, I believe from the book,
Yeah.
all the way up to Alex Haley's statue, where it looks like he's reading a story to three children. And then if you look closely at the children, they're all different nationalities.
Wow. Yeah, that
Yeah,
is
so
cool.
and it's right on Annapolis Harbor, where Roots took place,
Hmm.
basically, or where it started. So that's one of my favorite things to do. Whenever somebody comes to visit, I say we're going to Annapolis because we have to see this.
Here's Alex Haley, I mean Bill Haley Jr. Actually, I just communicated with him not too long ago. He's headed to Annapolis in the morning because he's sponsoring a bus tour there. And they're
Wow. Okay.
taking people on to different locations related to Alex Haley.
Oh, that's going to
And
be
I,
a
I think I think it's the Alex Haley Foundation that's sponsoring it. But yeah, it's I think it kicks off this weekend.
Oh, is it the Kunta Kinte Foundation? Because
What the Kunta Kinte Foundation, I
yeah,
believe
because
that's it. Yeah.
there's also a huge festival. I'm saying huge, but there's a festival they do in Annapolis
Yeah.
every year, the Kunta Kinte Festival.
Yeah. I think this is tied to that in some
Okay.
capacity. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it's quite an experience to be able to continue to tell this story though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitive. It is the definitive work. I would, in a way, it makes me somewhat sad that no one's ever really tried to do something else along those same lines because
Mhm.
that's one person's story, although it's representative of
Yeah.
many stories. But I don't even know if it could be done because it was a mini series. It it came on for a whole week,
Yeah.
every night for a week,
And we
and
all
one
sat right
one
in front of that
segment,
TV.
Hmm.
and it was like a national event, you
Yeah.
know.
I think what
Um,
made it so unique is that nobody had ever done anything to show the transition from
right.
Africa and the adaptation that took place in
Mm,
America. And that's what Alex Haley really did. And he, through the story of his family, which, so many, all Black people can relate to. And,
yeah,
and you just saw that vividly for the first time. You saw slavery, you may have read about it, but you saw it for the first time through these characters. And they were just the actors too were just so good that you could immediately identify with them, like in the whipping scene as it's been, coined now, when Kunta is whipped, people resonate with that. When he gets his foot chopped off, you remember that when Kizzy is taken away from her, mother and father, you
See.
know, you identify with that, you just don't forget.
yeah, and it reminds, and I tell people, if we were born 150 years ago, our children could be taken from us.
Mhm.
Just the idea that your child could be
Yeah.
taken from you and you never see them again, you don't know what happened to them. Um,
Yeah.
but they're probably living the same nightmare you are, just on a different plantation.
And I
And
think
so,
that's, go ahead, I'm
No,
sorry.
go ahead, Lucas.
No, I was just going to say, I think that's what makes Roots so relevant today because of the things that are happening in America. It's, the DEI, the dialing back, the, erasing of history, which makes
Right.
Roots so important right now. Like here in Tennessee, Knox County, Tennessee, where Alex Haley actually made his home as an adult, they banned the book from libraries. But the superintendent, after about 2 weeks of backlash from across the country, he reversed it, and so now the book is back. You can get it in the libraries now in
well,
Knox County. But what's so ironic is that in 2024, Tennessee lawmakers, in a Republican state, made Roots an official state book. But so you're going to abandon in Knox County and it's across Tennessee as an official state book. And they had good reason, just for the reason that you and I know, that
yes,
it's one of the main lawmaker who sponsored the bill called it a masterpiece and said
mm,
that Alex Haley was a native son and there's no way that we could not, recognize him and Roots.
right. There's no way to not acknowledge that in Tennessee, where they ended up going.
Yeah.
So, and it's there, and you were right about the acting was just so good.
Yes.
The casting was perfect. I don't know who did the casting. I know it's in the credits somewhere,
Yeah.
but each person's role was just spot on.
Hmm.
And the white characters were at the time, so a lot of the people who were in it
Yeah.
were actors who were normally beloved.
Yeah, like Lauren Green with Bonanza, and can't remember the man's name from the
Chuck
Brady Bunch.
Connors, Chuck
Yeah,
Connors.
yeah,
Oh, Reed. I think Reed is the guy from the Brady Bunch.
yeah, yeah,
He
yeah.
played the I forgot the role he played, but he sold Kizzy.
Yeah,
So
and then
he
and
was
then of course you had Ed Asner who
yes,
who played the captain on
of the ship.
the Ligonier. Yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, and so and
Legionnaire.
and these people were all actors who played roles where they were beloved. I mean, the
Exactly.
guy who was on the ship, I can't call his name, but he was the father in the Waltons.
Yeah, I remember him.
I
And
can't.
ABC did that on purpose. You're probably aware of this because they didn't think that many people would watch. So to make sure that people did watch, they incorporated these white characters that, as you say, are beloved, you know.
Yeah, and they played dastardly people.
Mhm.
And Sandy Duncan, who played Missy Ann,
Yeah,
I saw an interview with her, and she said for years she couldn't get work
yeah.
because people hated her for turning her back on Kizzy. They
There's a
they
really
really took that role.
Yes, there's a really strong testimony. I got commentary from various people just speaking candidly about how Roots impacted them. And there's one that I got from her where she's talking about growing up and, you know, s- being called a nigger lover because of the way that she embraced, um, you know, she was against racism where she grew up, but
Mhm.
she was, looked at, in a bad way because of that. And she talks about that experience, very candidly.
It's amazing how certain roles can shape you. Um, and people will always see you in that role, no matter what roles you play after
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
But while we were talking about actors, I was looking and I saw that LeVar Burton had given you a review.
Oh, did he?
But I think you had put it on the information sheet. There was a
Well, no, he gave me a blurb.
oh yeah, a blurb.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yes.
The blurb was on the book. Okay, I thought you meant another one. No,
No, no, no,
I haven't been
no.
keeping up with everything. I have to say, I will say this. You asked me initially why I did this. There were three people that I knew I had to get in contact with. And probably the first one was Alex Haley's grandson, Bill Haley Jr. And then the other one was LeVar Burton. And after several months, I was able to finally get him. and we talked for almost an hour. He was very gracious in answering every question that I had to ask. And I really, because he really helped, make the book because he's, Kunta Kinte. And
Yeah.
the other person was this gentleman named Michael P. Hearn, who wrote a piece in the New York Times back in 2021 for the centennial of Alex Haley's birthday. But he was a student of Alex Haley when Alex Haley lectured at Hamilton College back in 1968. And so he's now in his 70s, but he talks very vividly of what it was like being a student of Alex Haley and how Alex Haley kind of basically took him under his wing and he
Wow.
became the author that he is now. He's written several books of annotated versions of The Wizard of Oz, but he was the other person. And so when I got these individuals and that started listening to their stories, it kind of motivated me to really want to go after other people. And then I started getting, responses from other people, both, in Hollywood as well as, people from all walks of life. And just their stories of how roots, like you were talking about, and being in the front room with the family in front of that big screen TV and just, watching for 7, 8 nights and then having commentary, having discussion about it afterward. And then what things were like at school the next day, what things were like at work the next day, how people were acting, maybe white people were kind of standoffish, black people were a little more proud,
Like,
you know,
like make a fist.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And and there were all kind of there were fights that broke out at certain places. I mean, at one school, and I was talking to this one person who lived in Detroit or near Detroit, the white kids they couldn't go to school for a while. I think for a few days. Somehow they kind of they shut things down or did something to because it was just some violence after that. But then things eventually cooled off. But there after that too, there were like over 250 universities and colleges started African American studies programs, and then of course, as you know, um, after that, there became more and more interest in family reunions and then tracing, ancestry,
Yes,
which is how
genealogy really
ancestry.com. Yeah,
became
Family
more.
Search was
Yeah.
around. I think it started like in the 1800s, but Ancestry.com and all the others, they are a result really of roots. I mean, Henry Louis Gates, Professor Henry Louis Gates acknowledged that finding your roots is a result of Alex Haley's roots.
Yeah, he really broke some ground.
Yeah.
And you know, not there are people who are on an outstanding level, like really life changing,
Hmm.
generational
Hmm.
life changing. And Alex Haley writing the book Roots and then the series, it was a change. I don't know if people would be as informed about what happened during that period. And it's interesting that some white people, I'll say some white people, are like not offended or they feel put upon that we're showing what actually happened.
Yeah.
It's not like a made up story. This is what happened to our ancestors for
Mhm.
generations. It wasn't a one off, it wasn't one person, it
Mhm.
was millions of people. And so you can't just sweep that under the rug. Um, you, I don't, nobody's blaming the people who live now for it, but we're not going to let it, we're not going to act like our history doesn't matter. Everybody else's history matters. So ours
Yeah.
matters too. And to us, and it's as American as anything. It's really, it's truly American.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Alex Haley talks in the book about the number of white people that came up to him after he wrote it and said, thank you for writing this because they felt like they were educated about the history,
Mm-hmm.
in a better way, especially about slavery. And he said that they didn't, seem, they didn't seem like they were guilty or angry. They just appreciated, those that did approach them. And it's still that same educational tool. I think Roots is still a great way. As a matter of fact, I did a discussion guide to accompany the book that for classrooms and for book clubs to be able to talk about roots and slavery and heritage.
Yeah, I think
You know, that's well, no,
if
I
a
was just going to say that was interesting because right now with so much of our history being pulled out of museums and out of classrooms because the current administration doesn't want white kids to feel bad.
Yeah.
It's interesting that when this movie first aired, yes, there were some people who felt bad, but there were so many people who said that they learned.
Yes,
So, I mean,
exactly.
it's just kind of interesting how perspectives kind of change a little bit.
And I'm seeing a little bit of that now from some people I encounter that are white that have read the book and say they enjoy it and say they appreciate it. So it's interesting that that discussion is still there today, especially when amongst white people.
yeah, I think if you any classroom, like I would say maybe middle school or high school, I don't know,
Mhm.
social studies or history, showing roots really tells you the whole story. There's enough in roots for a whole semester.
Yeah, and speaking of which,
Yeah.
there is a professor at the University of Tennessee Martin, Dr. Henry Giles, and I interviewed her in the book. She has a curriculum whose core is around roots. Like she'll show the miniseries, and after each episode, they'll discuss the students and write about what they saw.
Hmm. It's I mean it's a great teaching tool. Now tell us a little bit about part roots part two and how you think which wasn't as successful in terms of just the groundbreaking part of it, but it was a very good depiction of what happened after
No, you're
uh,
saying is this Roots the next generation?
yeah, the next
Okay.
generation,
Yeah. Well,
not
maybe.
not the remake. I didn't really like the remake,
Yeah.
but Rhonda liked it. But to me, you can't. It's like when you remake a classic song and
Mhm.
you can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
But
it's
I mean, you have to take it for what it is. Like I
Mhm.
said, it's never going to have the heart
Yeah.
that the first one did, but I felt there was value in the remake because of the historical perspective and how they were actually trying to teach. This is kind of how it was, this is how they were able to make the book, or this was their
Mhm.
ability back then. Now that we've learned a bit more about Africa, we've learned a bit more about the Mandinka warriors.
Mhm.
Let's incorporate that into the remake, and that's the reason why I liked it, just for what it was. But I'll
Yeah.
always have a heart for the original.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I to answer your question, Ms. Richardson, I really enjoyed the Roots the Next Generation because I thought it really completed what Alex Haley has started. And I thought James Earl Jones did a great job playing
he did.
Alex Haley. And of course, that's that, iconic scene where he does find, the descendant, the griot, who's able to really retrace what his aunts and Grandma Cynthia had told him on the porch when he was, taking notes. And then this griot who has, as the history is told, close to 500 years of tribal history in his mind that he can repeat. And so he starts repeating these reigns. And Alex Haley, I'm assuming this is really the case. I don't think it was just dramatization, but he's about to fall asleep. And then he
Right.
hears the griot say he went to make a drum to get wood for a drum and he never returned. And so you see James Earl Jones going through his notes and then he starts repeating it and then he says, I found you, you old African, I found you. And when I interviewed Blair Underwood for the book, he actually went back and traced some of his history and he recalled, he said when he found his cousin, it was like James Earl Jones, Alex Haley finding his, his connection. And he was like, I found you. And those are just scenes that, like in the original, that I just will never forget, and I think that resonates with a lot of people as well.
Yeah, my daughter who's 30 now really loved them both, but she really liked the love story between Bertha and Alex.
Oh,
the
okay.
played by
Yeah.
Cara. What's her name? Her last name is Cara, isn't it? The one who played Bertha in the Roots of Next Generation.
Okay.
Irene Cara. She
Yeah.
played
Yeah.
in that.
Yeah.
Oh
I
yeah,
remember.
Irene Cara, yeah.
And her
Yeah.
husband was play I can't think of his name, but he played her Alex,
Yeah.
and he played Alex Haley all the way through.
I think he
Well, no,
played.
he played the dad. He
Yeah,
played
he
Alex
played.
Haley's
He
dad.
played. Yeah, Palmer Haley,
Yes,
Alex
yes.
Haley's
He
father.
was,
Yeah,
yeah, he was
I
Alex
forgot
Haley's
his
father.
name. I think it's Dorian Haywood.
Yes, yes,
Something
yes.
like that. Yeah,
Yes,
Harwood.
yes.
Yeah.
Haywood Harwood. Yes.
You know what's interesting, speaking of the actors, there are not many that are still alive. You know,
Yeah.
we lost some legends, I think a couple of years ago with James Amos
And
and
James L. Jones,
James,
Johnny,
yeah, and then and
Johnny.
of course
James
Louis
L. Jones
Gossett.
died not too long ago.
Yeah. So that's why. And Vin Marine, I interviewed him and he's like probably in his late 70s, but he's still Chicken George. He's
He
still
really played
very,
that
very
part.
spry. And I think
Yeah.
he's actually doing plays in Las Vegas. He's still doing stuff. And of course, as you know, Leslie Uggams is still really doing stuff. I mean,
Hmm.
I think she even got close or was maybe, I don't know if she was nominated for American Fiction with Jeffrey Wright, the book that was adapted from Percival Everett's Eraser book.
Oh, okay.
But she did a great role in that. I think she was with Tracy Ellis Ross and Sterling Brown. But she's still doing stuff, and it's just great to see.
Yeah, the people from the original Roots, they're not that many left because Madge Sinclair, wasn't that her name?
She passed away a few years
Passed
ago.
away quite a bit,
Yeah.
quite a
Yeah.
while ago.
Well,
Yeah.
LeVar Burton is
Um,
still active.
He's
he's
still
still
very active.
because he was
Yeah.
young at the time.
Yeah. He was
And that
only
was his first
19 when
role,
I think he
wasn't
did
it?
it. So when
Wasn't that his first real
it
acting
was,
role?
yeah, he was straight
Yeah.
out of college. I think he was only a freshman in college at the time.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he that really is what he's known for, even though it's been 50 something years.
Yeah.
But here's the
Well,
thing though, too.
and Reading Rainbow now. Reading
Well,
Rainbow.
Reading Rainbow, don't y'all forget Star Trek.
That's
Yep.
true.
Star
Well,
Trek
you're
too.
right. I'm not a
Yeah, yeah,
Trekkie,
yeah.
but he was in that.
He says that there are three crowns in his cap, or
Okay.
if and the first one is Roots, the other one is I think Star Trek, and the other one is Reading Rainbow.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, I noticed that he put Roots first.
Yeah, it was first. And that launched his career.
Yeah, it did.
He became a household name
Hmm.
after that. But I'm glad that you've written such a extensive book on roots, and I had my TBR is my shelves and bins and baskets are so full because of the show. But I wanted to get my own copy because I just think Roots was just so well done.
Yeah,
It's it's withstood the test of time. It's a
yeah,
classic and a major educational tool, and it was the whole. Even though it was some horrific things that happened, you could feel the dignity of the actors through the whole thing.
yeah. I mean, I
Uh,
think
I
it
agree.
just punctuates the resiliency of us. You
yeah,
know, yeah.
yes,
And I love too how it showed the nurturing of Black women in particular, like through Cicely Tyson, who played his mother, through Maya Angelou, who played his grandmother. This was in the
mhm,
original,
right.
and just others who, yeah, the men provided that warrior direction, but it was still he still received, nurturing from his mother and father. I mean, his mother and grandmother.
Yeah, and even Richard Roundtree, who wanted to
Yeah,
marry Kizzy,
yeah,
but she said, we know who we are, and
yeah,
you
yeah.
don't, and we're not compatible because of
I
that.
have to mention this. There was someone who they were just talking about famous scenes, and one of them that stood out was when O.J. Simpson chased down Kunta. He chased him down,
Oh
but
wow.
again, that was the That was the earlier OJ, you know.
Right.
Yeah, the early OJ. I
Yeah,
almost forgot he was
the
in that
Hertz,
movie.
the Hertz OJ.
Yeah, he
But
was running through the airport in those Hertz commercials.
yeah. And so he
I
was
don't know
running
if
to
they
chase
came
him.
before or after.
Yeah,
I have to look that up to see if
yeah,
he's running them routes first or through the airports first.
yeah. That was funny.
So anyway, Lucas, thank you so much for being a guest on the show.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much for writing this important book and keeping roots in the public mind, in the zeitgeist. Because we want to keep the history alive.
Mhm.
It's the definitive work
Absolutely.
on that period. And so thank you again. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Have a
Bye-bye.
great night.
You too.